Okay, let's be honest just for a second. Maybe this has happened to you. You're walking down the street. You spot a homeless person up ahead. You know in all probability they want money, so you cross to the other side of the street to avoid them.
Or maybe you see them standing at an intersection as you're stopped at a traffic light. Don't make eye contact. You tell yourself, maybe they'll think you didn't see them. Well, one Delaware priest decided to make it a point to see them, and that's why he's this week's Delmarva treasure.
I think it's a lot harder for kids who go through homelessness than adults,
Paul Mast is a good listener.
being that they're a little more able to handle it and survive.
And what these men at Joseph House in Salisbury have to say is important to him. Mast, a retired priest, is the author of this book, Street Sabbatical: Life Lessons for a Contemplative Beggar, a book inspired by a chance encounter.
I retired June 30th, and at the same time I asked Bishop Malloy for a sabbatical. He said yes. He asked me what I wanted to do. I said I had no idea.
That was until he met a man named Dwayne.
Then I had an encounter with a homeless man, Iraq War veteran, at the Smithsonian metro stop in Washington. And he had a plastic cup full of coins, and he asked me if I had any change. I said I did. How much did he need? His answer took me by surprise. He said $1.79. I asked him what that will do for him. He said that's all he needed to update his smart card so he could get back to his aunt's home in Suitland. I asked him to follow me down to the metro station. I updated his smart card. Then I said to him, do you have some time to talk? And I said, my name is Paul. I'm a Catholic priest. He said, my name is Dwayne. I'm an Iraq War veteran. I said, would you tell me your story about how you got homeless, which he did.
And it was Dwayne who helped Paul map out his sabbatical.
And I said, I begin a sabbatical in a couple days. Do you know what that is? And he said, I think so. It's like time off of work. And I said, yes. And I said, Dwayne, I have no idea how I want to spend my time. What do you think I should do? And he said, well, Reverend, you seem like somebody who's comfortable with the homeless and the poor and street people. So why don't you go out to cities and streets and meet more of us and ask for our stories and see what life lessons we could teach you that you could pass on in your preaching.
The rest, Paul says, is history. For the next 6 months, Paul traveled to several cities, including San Francisco, Dallas, Milwaukee, Delhi. And it wasn't hard to find those stories. In Dallas, Paul spent time at a shelter called the Stew Pot. That's where he met Eva and then Jeremy.
Then I went to the streets of Milwaukee because I have friends there. And I met the homeless at the St. Ben's Soup Kitchen and interviewed Mario there. And then I flew to Delhi, India. I was so overwhelmed by the poverty there and the people living on the streets.
With each city, each encounter, each story, Paul found a common thread.
They hunger for interaction. Just giving my name and asking for theirs triggered sunshine in their day. Somebody noticed me. Somebody asked my name.
That's why, in addition to writing the book, Paul has launched a website, banthelabelhomeless.com.
Some people have said to me, what do you suggest we replace the label homeless with? And I said, why do we have to replace it with anything? Why don't we just omit the label and start treating them as human beings? Then we even the playing field, rather than this divide where they're homeless and I'm not.
In fact, he says the label homeless fits those who live in houses as well.
One of the most profound lessons I learned from the homeless on the streets during the sabbatical is that there are homeless who live in houses. But we don't call them homeless. We call them dysfunctional. We call them people who self-medicate. We call them people who are in messy family relationships. We have other titles and names for them. But because of how I engage the homeless on the street, I now come to see those people in houses as emotionally homeless. They have an interior displacement similar to people who are physically displaced and who live on the streets.
As for Dwayne, the man Paul met in Washington, D.C.,
I've been back to the Smithsonian Metro stop at least 4 or 5 times, and I've not seen him. I'm convinced he was an angel.
And if you would like to meet Paul, he's having a book signing Saturday from 10 to noon at Emmanuel Catholic Gift Shop in Dover. And if you would like to learn more about how you can help the homeless through Paul's Ban the Label Homeless campaign, go to our website, wboc.com, click on our picture at the top of the page. Well, Paul is not the only one trying to make a difference when it comes to people living on the streets.
Nope. There's another man who took to the streets with nothing but the clothes on his back, and he says the experience was both terrifying and amazing.
I didn't know what to expect. I mean, there's different ideas you have in your mind and all.
This is what Mission Director Michael Meil looked like right before he traveled from Texas to Oklahoma City. He spent months preparing and searching for someone to go along on the experience before traveling to the city with only $9 given to him by a coworker to begin his week of living on the streets.
Probably the hardest or the most terrifying moment was when my buddy, who lives in Oklahoma City, we drove to Oklahoma City, and he dropped us off in front of the mission, and then he took my truck home. When he dropped us off and left, it was real. I mean, it was terrifying, and I don't know about amazing yet, but it was terrifying. And he left, and you're like, man, because think about it, I don't know anybody. I don't know where to stay. I don't know which way to walk, which way's good, which way's bad. You don't know anything, and so you're just kind of stuck in this, all right, here we go.
Michael worked his way through the area to find the 4th largest mission in the nation, and the people and experiences he found there were beyond anything he expected.
You know, the community, the homeless community as a whole, were very welcoming. They didn't judge you. They didn't, they may ask, hey, how are you from, or what's going on, like that, but it was never like, I never felt threatened. It was actually a pretty good experience from that standpoint.
Miles and his friend Philip Hamner learned new things about themselves as they experienced situations even they didn't fathom facing. But Michael says he really took away 2 things that he hopes to put into motion back home.
It doesn't, I would say this, have boundaries, if you don't want to give money, that's fine. But don't disregard the person. You can look someone in the eye, shake their hand, and smile. I mean, I did that this morning coming in. I just stopped, took the second, looked the guy, one of our guys, he's one of our regular guys, looked him in the eye, shook his hand, and gave him a smile, and he smiled back at me, and that warmed my heart. That's easy. Anybody can do that. If anything, it's just slow down, make the engagement with people, because it's really all about people. And just making sure to take the time to, it doesn't take long, 10, 15 seconds, you can stop and engage somebody and tell them hi or how you doing, those type of things. So I think just being intentional to engage people.
10 to 15 seconds. Michael says he's ready to put these things into motion now that he's back. You probably noticed that handwritten notebook in there. He kept a journal through the whole process so that he could remember and reflect on the week.
10 to 15 seconds, that's all it takes. Well, even though many of us have a roof over our heads, heating that home during the winter can prove difficult for many families. Many have to choose how to heat or whether they can heat at all. We show you ways how you can get energy assistance this year, plus some money-saving tips we can all use no matter what our financial situation.
And we're in the Delmarva Live kitchen making a kale salad topped with chimichurri skirt steak.
Plus some light and delicious strawberries and whipped cream for dessert.
But first, the Delmarva Life is all about community. That includes your community too.
Is there something going on in your neighborhood? We'd love to hear about it and see your photos from the event. Send the information our way along with any photos you'd like to share.
It's easy to get a hold of us. You can reach us at comments@delmarvalife.com or like us on Facebook and share the info there. Delmarva Life, we'll be right back.